The one with Ross's step forward is the 11th episode of the 8th season of Friends. This is directed by Gary Halvorson, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it's a decent episode, and I will talk about each of the parts of the narrative in turn. I'll talk about Chandler, first of all, and then I'll talk about Rachel, and then I will talk about Ross. So Doug has invited Chandler and Monica to dinner. Monica really doesn't want to go because of his previous behaviour, so Chandler has to pretend that he and Monica split up. So Doug cheers Chandler up by taking him to a bunch of strip clubs, and Doug's a really interesting character. I wish we got to see more of him. He's played by Sam McMurray, and I rather liked him. Really good fun, but my favourite part of this part of the narrative is when Chandler comes home and he tells Monica what happened. First of all, Monica doesn't lose her mind because Chandler had initially said Monica would be really unhappy if he went to strip clubs, and then he realised, oh, hang on, we're supposed to be separated. He insulted her and went with Doug. But actually, Monica just accepted that this was something Chandler had to do, and it was really lovely. And then Chandler said to her that it gave him a glimpse of what his life would be like without her. And he said, please promise me that you will never leave me and we will grow old together for the rest of our lives. And it's so, so beautiful and such a lovely moment between both of them. So I really enjoyed that part of the narrative. Then we come to Rachel. Rachel is attracted to everybody. She flirts with her doctor. This is Dr. Schiff, played by Shawn Christian. And I have to say, we didn't need more from that scene. It was the perfect length. But I kind of would have liked to have seen it a little bit longer because it was very, very funny. Rachel's behaviour was kind of inappropriate and it was really amusing. So a good scene, probably the perfect length, but personally, I would have liked a little bit more from it. Phoebe then brings somebody over for Rachel to have sex with. This is Roger, played by Ashley Clark. We don't get much of the character, but that in itself is quite awkward. And then we have an interesting moment between Joey and Rachel, and I think this says a lot about Joey more than Rachel, because there's a moment lingering between them when Rachel explains how she's feeling, and it's very clear that Joey's considering making a move on her, and it hangs in the air for a couple of seconds, and then they realise, no, we can't do this, and they go their separate ways, and Joey initially seemed like he was going to push for it, but they go to their rooms. Rachel peeks back out of her room, and all we hear is Joey saying, get back in there, which I loved. And I think that says a lot about Joey. For Joey to turn down sex with Rachel shows that he cares more about her and their friendship than what they could have in the moment. And I thought that was a really lovely thing for Joey to do. So I enjoyed that part of the episode as well. I think the scene with the doctor is probably one of my favourite moments in the whole episode. The scene with the doctor and what Chandler said to Monica when he came home are my two favourite scenes. And then we come to Ross. Mona wants to send out holiday cards because they had some photographs taken together. She wants to send out 100 of them, and Ross confides in the others that he doesn't feel like he's there yet. And much to his credit, he does tell Mona pretty quickly, not immediately, but he does tell her that he doesn't feel like he's there yet. And to Mona's credit, she doesn't get upset. She doesn't say, how dare you not care about me the way I care about you, or anything at all like that. But she does say, so where are we? Where is this relationship going? And it's very clear Ross wasn't expecting to have that conversation and very quickly said, let's send out the cards. Mona agrees to this, but also says they need to have the conversation. And Ross thinks about this and ultimately tries to tell her that he's happy with the way things are, kind of insults her a little bit, and sums up by saying, we're having fun, you look young, which is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I want to say credit to Ross, massive credit to Ross. Ross, who marries everybody he meets, actually vocalised that he wasn't ready to take a step further in the relationship. And I think that that's really appreciated. At least it would be by me. If somebody I was in a relationship with wanted to slow things down, I'd rather they told me than rushed into something, felt miserable, and then broke away from the relationship. It's better to be steady and consistent than to rush things and end up in a disaster zone. So I think Ross was very admirable in that moment. And I think, apart from his absolute jumbled attempt at trying to tell Mona this, I think he did the right thing. And then he panics and gives her a key to his apartment. Not just any key, his only key. And when Phoebe asked him how it went, we had a really funny exchange between the two of them. And Ross panics again because he's changing the lock because now he has no key. That seems extreme. Because he would still have to tell Mona the lock had been changed, otherwise she'd try and get into the apartment and it wouldn't work. So it seemed a bit extreme, but nevertheless, Mona sees this and he ends up saying, "I love you." And Mona responds by saying, "I love spending time with you." Which obviously is very awkward, but it just goes to show that you don't need to pretend to be somewhere you're not in a relationship because you don't know exactly where the other person is. It's better to have a conversation about it. And again, much to Ross's credit, he tried. He didn't quite succeed, but he tried. So it's interesting to see where Ross's head is at. It's interesting for him to be taking a relationship at a much slower pace. And part of me wonders if that's because of Rachel at this moment in time. Is it because maybe deep down he wants to be with her? He still is very much, in my opinion, in denial. He very much at this point thinks he's over Rachel. But I think little signs like this suggest maybe not. But maybe that's me reading into this particular episode a little bit more deeply than I need to. But either way, it's a solid episode. The one with Ross's step forward is a brilliant episode of Friends. As I said, personal highlights would absolutely be Rachel in the doctor's office and everything Chandler said to Monica when he came home from the strip club. And Ross had some pretty great moments as well. He probably doesn't think so, but I thought they were very good. So, needless to say, the one with Ross's step forward is a pretty brilliant episode of Friends.